Hi, my name's Rob Scott from CX Today, bringing you the latest news and conversation from the customer experience technology space. So today I'm joined by Craven O'Malley from HubSpot, and we're going to be discussing the future of customer experience in a post-pandemic world and the role that CRM plays in it. Welcome, Craven.
Thanks, Rob. Delighted to be here.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining me. Hey, before we get started, however, should we just do a quick introduction? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at HubSpot, please.
Absolutely, delighted to. So Craven O'Malley is my name. I am a senior sales director here at HubSpot. I work as part of the EMEA team, and I've got responsibility for our mid-market, corporate and partner teams in the UKI marketplace. I'm just coming up on 2 years with HubSpot. It's 2 years into a 20-year tech career. So I started back in the late 1900s selling hardware and software, the SaaS of its day, and more recently have moved into CRM and specific marketing automation packages of the kind that HubSpot supply. And my team is to onboard, enable and support our sales teams to meet the demand for those products in the market, but also to challenge our customers and move that digital first agenda forward in their planning so that, you know, they can be part of the way in which digital has a huge value add for customers into the future, and a way in which businesses can connect with them that has been really brought into sharp focus over the last couple of years.
Superb, thanks for that. And what a 2 years it's been, eh? That's a nice segue into my first question, really. I suppose the last 18 months or so. I mean, what's it been like for you and your customers? You know, what kind of trends have you picked up on?
Well, yeah, for sure. It's been eventful, right? Everybody is in the same circumstance. This pandemic is not regional, it's global. So the first thing I would say is our primary focus when this hit initially was to make sure that our teams, our people, but also our prospects, our customers and our partners around the globe were safe and well. And at a point in which people were beginning to navigate that properly, the first part of our response was one of support, and a package of measures were put in place to provide some financial support for companies whose priority back then was very much about survival, as opposed to the growth strategies that perhaps they'd been adopting up until that point. So it was a real fight to survive at that point. We provided a lot of support for customers on their contracts, discounts, pausing payments, whatever we could do to support them navigate that first period, I think, of shock that people were going through to adjust to what people refer to as the new normal. Teams that were now in a distributed fashion, obviously customer relationship management, CRM, has a huge role in providing glue to connect those companies in terms of their response to customers' needs during that period. So that was a very interesting evolution in the progress of CRM as a priority product within the business application suite of businesses. So once they got through that initial thriving period, there was definitely some industries within the wider economy where there was a little bit of a tailwind in terms of the circumstances that the pandemic threw up. So for sure, hospitality, travel continue to struggle, and we have a lot of customers in those industries and we're supporting them in every way we can. But there's many other industries where moving to digital first, moving to channels of communication actually was a boost to their business, and they were able to connect with customers in really meaningful ways. So there definitely came a point later in 2020 when businesses began to look at the opportunities that were in the marketplace and the economy at the time, and how could they develop a strategy around an investment in applications, customer experience applications, to capitalize on those opportunities and provide really delightful customer first experiences, which would have, fueled their growth over the last number of months. And we've seen that ourselves. I think from our own internal perspective, our priority at the start was our teams and making sure that they could stay connected, even though they were remote 100%. We've always contemplated, and we're a company that I think suits a culture of a hybrid workforce where some people are in offices and some people are remote. But for sure, the move to 100% remote had its challenges. Our services teams, our internal security and IT teams were absolutely phenomenal, our people operations, to make sure that people had the support and the IT equipment that they needed. And obviously, as a provider of a CRM SaaS solution, I think we were able to benefit from the technology that we have and we build ourselves to keep our teams close and keep trying to provide great customer experiences to our install base that we're going through a pretty difficult time.
Yeah, thanks for that. And that is absolutely the core of today's topic of conversation, really, isn't it? So, I mean, we're beyond that kind of, it feels like we're moving beyond that kind of survival mode now, that survival stage of the pandemic, and we're more thinking about the longer term plans. But, why should business leaders, prioritize customer experience, in their plans?
I mean, it's a great question, and I think it's going around C-suite teams and business leaders' minds for quite a while. I think for me, and I think for HubSpot, we see the pandemic as really only accelerating some of the trends that were probably there before. If you look back at the evolution of, industrialization, workforce management, the different technologies that have delivered growth over time, we're definitely in an age now where information is in the hands of our consumers, and information is power. It really is localized on top of your customers and your prospects, that they can have all the information about your products and services that they need before they talk to a salesperson. There is plenty of empirical evidence out there that before a customer turns up to your sales team and actually talks to a member of your team, upwards of 65% of their purchasing process has been completed. So if you're not available in terms of mobile, website, and information in a really clean and clear, concise manner, positioning your products and services to those target audiences, you're definitely missing out on opportunity. And I think the pandemic has escalated that. I think the other interesting development is, if companies aren't incredibly transparent and open around things like pricing or contractual points, there's a lack of trust. And I think what people have been crying out for, and again, I think the pandemic has accelerated this, is to work with brands who are very trusting and who they can build a sustainable and loving relationship with. So even though price is always incredibly important, it is one part of, the framework of the relationship you have with your customers. And you certainly need to give value for money, which is, where the price issue comes in. But I'm seeing consistently customers who ascribe value to more than just the cost of your product. And they want to know that there is teams there behind that contract that can support them when they need it. They want to make sure that their investment in applications is not simply something where they end up using a very small proportion of the power of that platform. So being easy to use is incredibly important. And we certainly saw our customers go through an immediate requirement to communicate effectively with their customers. So, lots of companies are using the HubSpot platform. One that comes to mind at the moment is the World Wildlife Federation. Huge amounts of community subscribers to their content, lots of donors to support the great work that they do, trying to have, the human and animal populations coexist. And they relied on the HubSpot platform to communicate with them, not just through email, but through their websites, through mobile, and a consistent message across all those channels gave people the information that they needed so that they were able to continue that relationship they had with the brand. I think that's an incredibly satisfying relationship that we have, but it's one of many where they're relying on the the HubSpot customer experience platform to connect with their customers in what was a very difficult period. And when you continue to connect in a meaningful way, those conversations develop. Your ability from a sales perspective to hopefully capitalize on some of the opportunity and maybe the pain that they're going through is real. And we've certainly been warmed to see some of the success of our customers over the last 12 months as they emerge from what has been for sure an incredibly challenging time for all of us.
Yes, indeed. So has the role of the CRM changed or evolved as a result of the pandemic, do you think?
I think it has. I mean, if I could use the phrase modern CRM, I mean, I've been working since a time when, if you use the CRM to get somebody's email address or phone number, and it was like a customer card, if you like, on your laptop. The modern expectation of a customer relationship management system is totally different, and it probably should be redefined a little bit. Ultimately, there needs to be a connection between your CRM systems and where your customers are trying to surface information about your business. And in many, many cases now, that's either on a website or a mobile version of your website. So from a content management perspective, those content management systems need to be very, very clear, very easy to use, and surface the information that customers need at the moment that they need it. What CRM then becomes is a repository of all of those touch points that your customers have with your business, with your brand. So whether it's from a marketing automation perspective, the messages that they want at the time that they want it, whether it's sales and the sales teams are not bothering customers who are not quite sales ready for a conversation, but perhaps their need was more nurturing in terms of some of the products or services or pricing that you offer. Is that available in a very transparent and easy to navigate way? What is their experience working with you as a brand when they don't have somebody on the end of a phone? It's incredibly important. There's lots of data to suggest that brand and customer loyalty is damaged incredibly through poor experiences, whereas the expectations of customers now, and certainly the pandemic has accelerated this as well, the expectations of the experience that your brand will give customers have gone through the roof. So we will not be going back to an exclusively face-to-face telephone first type engagement, which perhaps was the bedrock of relationships many businesses and maybe some industries had with their customers. They need to be able to continue in a digital first way. They need to be able to give remarkable experience for those customers. We've all had that experience of having to repeat ourselves. We connect with brands through social, we connect with the website, we talk to them, we end up on their service desk. And if they end up asking us the same questions all the time, our loyalty and our attention span is challenged. Whereas our systems and our platform put that customer first information in the hands of your teams that need it when they're talking to customers. And it's about giving them a great experience. And I remember talking to a customer a number of years ago now, and it was in the automation industry. And she was making the point to me that from a customer experience perspective, the measure of the service and the experience she and her company and their brand gave prospective customers was not in comparison to other automation providers or car companies. It was about the experience the potential customer had with a recent hotel or a retail. And we're finding those B2C brands are frankly leading the way in terms of what a B2B customer is expecting now and the way that they want to be treated. So if your financial institution or car selling business is talking to customers, they are rating you based on an incredible B2C experience that they would have had elsewhere in the marketplace and not just on another company within the same industry. So I think the expectations of customers have skyrocketed. I think they will not recede. They will continue to be demanding. And it's about having information at the fingertips of your teams across their various departments that's consistent with the brand message, but that also has a 360 sense of what that customer or what that contact has been doing, whether it's surfing your website, the pages, the information that they've used, if they are a customer, the problem that they have, and you're dealing with them in a timely and efficient and personal way. I think those requirements of businesses to grow into the future are not likely to change.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It certainly does feel like the pandemic, certainly amplified any gremlins in customer experience, that were there. So if a company had problems with customer experience before the pandemic, they probably were several times worse, during the pandemic. But for the companies that did it well, you're absolutely right. It feels like we've really moved on quite a bit, and certainly moved towards more of a customer-first world where the customers feels like they're in the driving seat with customer experience to some degree as well, which is quite refreshing. My next question, I want to kind of think about the future a little bit here now. So we're moving on from the dreaded pandemic, and businesses are kind of starting to double down and think about customer experience again. So, how's that going to play out in the future, and kind of what advice would you give anyone looking at their customer experience strategy? What steps would they take?
Yeah, I think you're dead right. There's no doubt that people are very mindful of the fact that with different waves, we're still very concerned about our people and our customers and our communities from a public health perspective. But it shouldn't be a negative point for companies to think about growth. And I think they do need to think about growth, because the current environment we find ourselves in for many businesses across all industries offers opportunity. And the way in which they position themselves to capitalize on that opportunity will define the growth path that they will be on for the next number of years. So, we talk about disruptive entries into markets, whether it's new vendors, new competitors, new technologies. We're in a very disruptive environment right now, and that can be the fuel for very creative entrepreneurial thinking. And in many ways, some of the most incredible brands we have today came from that kind of a disruptive environment in the past. So I think I really encourage entrepreneurs, business startups, and businesses who want to scale into the future to sit down and think about what their growth platform and what their growth pathway will look like for the next 2 to 3 and on in years. And I think customer relationship management needs to be central to that. I think when you think about your brand value today and into the future, it isn't simply about market capitalization. It's not simply a responsibility to shareholders. I think the customers and markets of today will reward ethical business and good business. They want to see diverse teams within your company servicing them that look more like they do in the community than simply a lack of diversity across your team. So that's incredibly challenging for some companies to make that pivot. And I think your value is more than your product to those potential customers. The way in which you deliver the service, there is a lot of evidence to suggest that the experience you give your customers will create more brand loyalty than the actual product that you're selling in of itself. We think our technology stack is great, and we think it's a very compelling value proposition that we go to market with some incredible technical referenceability within that. But ultimately, there are other CRM vendors. So why would somebody choose HubSpot? Well, I think we would like to think that they will choose us because we have designed the platform with customers in mind. So there are other platforms out there, but in some cases, they can be an aggregation of acquired intellectual property and it's the promise of cloud, but they're stitched together so that data can flow. I think it does create some complexities for businesses that may not have huge resources or IT teams to manage as individual parts of that stack become upgraded, and that can delay their ability to go at the pace of the marketplace, and it can dull innovative thinking within the business because you're limited by the limitations of your tech stack. HubSpot is a truly single database platform. So our founders, I should say, made an incredibly brave and wise decision a number of years ago, where we decided when it comes to customer experience platforms, we would build it, not buy it. So HubSpot has a truly unified database underneath all its products, which means if you talk to your service teams, your marketing information, or your sales teams, everybody has visibility on what's happening with that client engagement. And if you're going to give those delightful customer experiences of the future, that is absolutely paramount. So all of that data is in one single view. And even before a prospect or customer comes inbound to you to have a conversation, it's fantastic to have the data available to your teams at that point. But your marketing and your sales operations people can do a huge amount of interrogation of that data, and they can understand the types of offers and the types of material and content that will cultivate the conversation to move it on for your sales teams, so that you can actually be outreaching to people in the marketplace, a target audience, and be giving them very, very personalized information where it's actually meeting the challenge and the need that they have in their business at that moment in time. So instead of being a kind of a batch and blast, disruptive, uncomfortable experience, it's actually serving customers, providing value to them at a time when they really need it, because you've been able to observe the patterns of interaction with your brand over time. And it's in a really complete and consistent way. So I think, the time for businesses to reflect on that and think about growth strategies into the future, I think, is here. I think there are disruptors in every industry, and for those creative entrepreneurial type businesses, and that's not just startups, that can be in large and scaling business as well. The way we did things in the past does not necessarily bind our strategies into the future. So we're here to support those people on those growth journeys into the next number of years.
Some great advice there. Thank you so much. And I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. But for anyone looking to find out more about HubSpot, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, it'll be no surprise, having said all of that, I will direct people to our website, which I think tries to do a great job of bringing to life for us what I've been advising and talking about for the last number of minutes. So for sure, go along to HubSpot.com to get as much information as you can, and connect in for any of our teams. We'd be happy to talk to people and give them advice one-to-one if that's helpful as well.
Superb. Craven, it's been really good speaking to you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Rob. Enjoyed the conversation.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to CX Today News and give this video a quick share on social, as it's always appreciated. And if you're a CX fan and want to be part of the conversation, you can join us using the CX News hashtag on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook, and our social links are in the description. So I'm Rob Scott from CX Today. Thanks for watching.